people. Take you out the race to go on and affair. Make you get some more. I've given all I could give, but baby, get some more. And meet me what is needed. Can't give any.
Hey everyone, Kevin Rose here. Welcome to another episode of Proof. Today we are having a chat with the oh so talented Ed Balloon. Ed is an artist, a writer, a dancer, a musician. He pretty much does it all. And he also is the host of some very important BIPOC Twitter spaces. Today we talk about his stop motion technique of animation that he's applied to NFTs. Also, we cover diversity and code switching in the NFT space and his upcoming super rare drop, a little bit of alpha there that we're talking about as well. I know you'll enjoy Ed. He's so much fun, a great human. Let's chat with him.
Baby.
Ed.
What's good, man?
We finally did this.
Finally, you know?
We were talking about doing this for what?
Since August.
Yeah, something like that. But then all kinds of things happened.
Yeah.
COVID, travel. You were gone for like a month.
Oh, so it's me. No, definitely was you. You were the issue. And then...
You were gone for at least 3 weeks. There was, right?
Why was I gone?
I don't know. You left. We were supposed to...
Okay, I had some shows to do.
But
yeah,
there you go.
But you also... You just had 2 weeks off. I mean, you went to the UK for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then I got sick, and then there's a whole... Anyway, it's good to have you on the show. This is awesome.
I am really glad to be here.
I've been on your show, on Twitter Spaces. Now you're on the show.
Which I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming to the Bible.
Well, I want to talk about all that stuff, man. But let's back up and just tell your story.
Yeah.
Who are you?
So I am Ed. I am a musician. I also, I guess, have the stop motion puppet. I guess I am a visual artist as well. I a creative director, as some would say. But yeah, I have a band. I make music.
You're a dancer?
I also do dance, correct. I perform. I do all these things. I don't even, when people ask me that question, it's so difficult because I'm like, man, I have to I don't want people to think I don't do that, but I do this,
Right.
And, so titles really mess me up. But yeah, I do a lot of things.
You sound like, it's funny when I go to these, every once in a while you go to a party where they come up to you and they're like, what do you do for a living? It's like that. It's my least favorite question because I don't know what to say.
I know it's really, and I didn't think it was going to ever be an issue because before when I was young, I was like, yeah, I'm a singer. But as I've allowed myself to expose myself to other things and, saw this want to do different things and to expand my artistry. I see myself more than just a singer and more than just a performer. I also screenwrite. I also creative direct. There's all these things. And so I don't know. It's just don't box me. I try not to put myself in a box because, I don't want to restrict myself, I think.
Don't you think that in my mind, one of the reasons why I like dabbling in so many different things is it just feels like it's just more fun. It's just like you get to try your hand at a bunch of different things. Are you pulled in these different directions? Because I have a short attention span sometimes, and I'm on to the next thing, trying something new. But I love that. What pulls you in all these different directions?
Honestly, I think it has been lack of resources.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, when it came to Ed Be the Puppet, that happened was because tour was canceled. It was 2020 and our tour was canceled. So I was like, we need to have a digital presence. We have to do something that has a digital presence. And I was going through all these things that I've seen on TV and stuff in movies. And I watched that Wes Anderson movie where it had stop motion in it. And I was like, well, those characters seem so cool. So imagine if I had a character like that look like me. And, fast forward, it came to 2020. I was like, yeah, what if I did something like that? And the resource, it was the lack of me not being able to go on tour, but I still had to find a way to put our music and our art. So it was still tied to the music, but it was okay, how do I find a way to do it? And so it was, finding something that was different, but I felt was going to be something that was still true to my artistry, even though I never tapped into it before. And so it was me just saying, okay, well, how do I pivot to doing something I've never, pivot to something I've never done, of only seen others do, but would want to like take a stab at that. And so like teaming up with an animator and like, you know, really like talking about my ideas to where we have Ed be the puppet now. And so things like that, right? But it also takes I was talking to my sister the other day, and she was like, you are someone who really takes risk. And I don't really see myself that way. But I think sometimes maybe that's what a risk taker is. You don't really know you're taking a risk until after the fact. And so, but like, yeah, I'm like usually like, okay, I don't really, I want to try this. I'm going to try this out. Why are you trying this out? You don't really have to do that. But I'm like, no, I think this is something that makes more sense, or it doesn't even have to make sense. It just feels right. And when I did that, like making the Ed be the puppet with that stop motion, they were like, why would you do that? The process is so long. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't get into it. I was talking to other artists, they're like, we did that before, but it's just too long and it's too tedious. And, you know, and I was like, but no, I have an idea and I think this is actually going to work. And I just went with it and I didn't care about what anyone said. And so, but it also, you know, it took time. And so sometimes also that too, right? Like taking that leap to something that you've never done before and doing it and, you know, not getting what you want all the time and just sticking with it. And then later, maybe, hopefully it starts to, you know, hit and people are like, oh, wow, this is actually really something that I like. And, you know, but of course you're always doing it for yourself too. Cause, you know, as an artist, there is this, you know, the need to be authentic and genuine to, you know, our truth. And so that was something that I felt like I need to do for my truth as well. So
when you started thinking about stop motion, because it is, I did it back in high school days, back in the day, and it is a pain in the ass because it's like take a photo. You know, back then they had like a box that could do it where you hit a button, you move the character a little bit, hit another button, move the character a little bit, like over and over and over and over.
It's still kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. So it's, you know, it's a lot. But at what point? I mean, you could do that and you could launch it on YouTube and you could say like, this is my new video or this is my new whatever that you want to put out. When did NFTs get looped into this for you? Like what?
Well, yeah. So like, because I was doing that. I was putting on Instagram and trying to have the content go viral. And one sort of did, but you know, it didn't. But yeah, it was us doing that. And when we had a good amount of people like seeing this, like, this puppet. And so like, long story short, the puppet was legit supposed to be, you know, a little version of me, which it kind of is, but I feel like it's way more sassier and, you know, way more like, you know, harder. All the things I wish I could be. But yeah, it became this art, like it became this puppet that was more of like, it would say whatever it wanted to say. And it was more than just like a musician. And at first I just wanted to just be like, you know, for it to just, you know, do my songs and perform in those things. But we made it like, we made it as a puppet that would just, you know, actually do these skits and these like satirical skits, which kind of, you know, gave it more eyes and stuff. And from there we were able to like, you know, find a team to, you know, try to bring it to life as like a TV show. And so we were like working on that. And I also was trying to go on tour at the same time. So all these things were like working on. And this was like July of 2021. And then I don't know what happened, but at the end of that month, like the beginning of August, all the things like just went to the bottom. For some reason, my team just like, it just wasn't working with the shows. We weren't getting in the rooms, like it was losing its traction. So that started to look like very, you know, very, it started to look terrible. It just didn't look like it was moving. And then, and that was like with the show. And then we had that tour, and then COVID, the numbers started to peak up again. So that got canceled. And then my band, we broke up. We're still a band. It's like two of us now, me and my bandmate, Dave Chapman. But we had a third member and he left the band. So that was that. And then I caught COVID. And so all these L's in 1 month. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? And I was trying to get in NFTs like in March of that year, but I brought it up to people and people were like, no, that's stupid. And I even put out like a tweet that got no engagement. And I was like, hey, is music in NFTs? And you know, no one cared. And so I guess it took COVID for me to be in isolation. And I just was like, I remember like, I was like, on YouTube, not YouTube, on Netflix. I was just watching Netflix and going on Twitter every day. That's all I could do. And I was mad because I'm like, man, all these things, I was like, things were moving and then out of nowhere, everything just like hit rock bottom, or that's what it felt like. But it was me getting into like a Twitter space that day. And I was like, wow. And that was like the NFT space. And that was how I kind of got exposed to it. And then I went down a rabbit hole and I was like in Twitter space after Twitter space after Twitter space until I got out of isolation. So that was kind of how I got exposed to the space.
Did you start immediately like getting a wallet and start playing around?
Absolutely not. I came into the space and I was already seeing a lot of people getting hacked or, a lot of the scams and stuff. And for someone like me, I just knew like right off the back, like I don't have the luxury. I didn't have the luxury with like, having like maybe like $5,000 already or $10K like that I could just use to my disposal. Right? Like, so if I got hacked or scammed or whatever, like it was fine. Like that, I didn't have that luxury. And some people in the space did. And so like I knew that I had to really be careful. And I knew and that was something I was also like talking about too, which is why I also had the BIPOC space, which is what I do at In the Homies, where it was like really also talking about like how people of color, specifically Black people, because I am Black, like how we should move in this space, considering like there is a delay when it comes to technology, or this barrier, unfortunately, and like how do you make sure that you're making the right decisions and choices? And so like I found people that I could trust, but even that I was like asking questions. I was going to these spaces. Like I remember going to these spaces that had big rooms and I would see the people talking and stuff. And my goal was to always try to go on stage to ask the questions, because I think sometimes people can listen, right? And you can get that information, but some people actually need to formulate the question to that person to get the right answer correctly. And so that was something I needed to do. And I had no problem. I didn't care how big the room was, whatever, because I need to understand this tech, which I'm still learning, but I need to understand it, not for the sake of only just me being able to navigate in this space, but I just knew like being in this space was my duty to also help others who are underprivileged or just don't have the resources to be able to to move like others in this space. And so like when I came into the space, I didn't have a wallet until 3 months in. It was like 3 to 4 months.
So it was just a lot of listening and
a lot of listening. Yeah.
One time we were talking, this is a while ago, you were saying, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it was something in this idea that it was hard to get on stage and intimidating to ask questions because it's like 99.9% white people up there. And was that something that held you back, or you think holds back a lot of people from asking questions?
I think the latter. I definitely think it holds a lot of people back from asking questions. It definitely was something that I could recognize. Like I also have like those those feelings that come to play when, say, you're walking in a room and you're the only Black person. Like how do you navigate that space? It was the same thing.
You had that in school too, right?
All the time. Like it was like college. I was a philosophy major, and I was the only the Black person in my class that graduated, at least to my knowledge, but I graduated. And I just remember like also just always finding ways to like have to navigate like the classroom, having to like be the one to sit in the front. I legit sat in the front because I couldn't see the board, but like, but also like I need to also like, it felt like I need to make sure that they knew I was here. Just that precious sometimes. And I feel like some colleges really missed the ball because they were like, oh yeah, we're filling the quota. We're trying to bring diversity, but they lacked in trying to educate people on what that really means, on like diversity. Like we all have different backgrounds, we're not a monolith. And so that was like another thing of just trying to like deal with. But it prepared me, or it did help me with, trying to deal with spaces like, that are predominantly white. And how do you move in these spaces, and how do you, because I don't think sometimes all these spaces, right, are aware that, which is, I mean, I don't know if I'm giving them too much of grace. But there are some people like when we talk about sometimes when there's racism and stuff like that, it's not like the intention is to be racist, right? But it's the system there, right? What is at play? the fact that there's just not enough people of diversity, that is an issue, right? That is probably systematic, but people not being aware of that. So how do you move in these spaces and note these things and bring that to bring that to bring that conversation up. And so having these spaces, it was very difficult. It was why I had to I teamed up with people like Patrick Wagner and Brittany Pierre to start up this BIPOC space, because we were seeing a lot of issues. It was, we don't see color. Why is that a problem in this space? We don't see color. We all have PFP projects. And I was like, you see, the issue here is that you have this luxury of not seeing color, but we do. Some of us, from the way how you speak and these things, we are already sensing we are the only ones here. Mm-hmm. So how do we talk about this? And during this time, it was we WAGMI, all together, we're trying to build a community. And so we were bringing up these conversations, just if you really care about all of us making it and the community being together, you should be willing to find ways to find solutions to these problems that we're also having. And so there will be these big stages, and a lot of times, a lot of people would be afraid of that because they wouldn't see people like them up there. And so it was also my duty to make sure that I was up there to let them know, hey, yeah, we out here. and so I would do that, but I would also be myself as much as possible. And I think that's another conversation for another day of just code switching and stuff. But it was something where I just need to make sure that I was being very true to myself, and because I had a duty, which I still feel like I do, being in the space of just making sure that this space is not only that it's not only for me to benefit from, but others who are like me to also benefit from, because there's a lot of things to benefit from being in this space, especially if you're early, right? So that was something I was just trying to do, and so I was legit doing that, and I kind of forgot that I was an artist, right? I was just how do we find ways to diversify and really get our wins in this space, and so I was really zoned in on doing that, which is I've been doing still, but I'm also still focusing on my art and all that. But yeah.
I do want to cover a bunch of your art, but one of the things that I thought, in our early conversations, just going a little bit deeper into this idea of using Twitter to learn, using Twitter to discover new things. One of the things that you and a few other I don't know if it was Black artists or just collectors, but they made me aware of this problem that I didn't see, which is where if you're following your peer group of, let's just say it's fellow Black creators or creatives, and you're not looped into a lot of these other, creators, you're not following them, you're getting recommended different suggested content by the algorithm. And so there's just this thing that several people have told me. They're we don't ever see your content. Nothing about Proof ever comes up. Nothing about Moonbirds ever comes up. We don't see these projects early because we're not in the same group, right? Have you seen that be an issue? Have you heard people talk about that?
Absolutely, but I always knew that was an issue. So it was why I would also follow people that weren't really in my circle. It was why I would go in these spaces that weren't really, things that represented more people like me, because I was okay, well, maybe I need to try to get and then I would also try to find ways to get them to our space. So then, there's ways of people who never knew this person before now to have access to them and can start following them and build that connection there. It was there was one space where Keith from Time was in it, and I was okay, how do we find a way to get him into this, to this space? And Brittany Pierre was on a stage, and she was able to have him come to the space, and then from there I was able to have him come to the space and talk about time, and also just build that relationship out with us. And so it's those things. But in this, it's unfair. It really is a problem. But it's just how do we bridge that? And so I've been trying to find ways to do that because I really care about that. I know that's an issue. Yeah. But how do you beat beat that. Like,
yeah,
you
I mean,
and
you can't when Twitter is like, hey, by the way, when it's doing these recommendations, it's like, by the way, here are more people that look just like you, right? You know what I mean?
And I know that's an issue. Like with MySpace, I know I don't get it recommended to a lot of people, and so I have to.
With MySpace, you're still on MySpace? Is that
with my Twitter space.
I thought you were saying you're on MySpace. I was like, oh shit, you old school.
I don't know. MySpace is coming up, I was told.
Yeah.
But like, it is kind of frustrating because they're like, man, like, but you have to, I don't know. A lot of people have been saying you don't work harder, you work smarter. So I've been trying to find ways to work smarter. To like, deal with that situation.
I mean, you've done a good job from what I've seen from outside looking in terms of like making these bridges happen and bringing more folks in and getting more awareness. Like, well, I guess we can't announce it yet, but you've got some pretty interesting people that you want to have on your Twitter Spaces that are coming up that should be pretty awesome. and like the one thing I respect about you is like you're not aiming, like your bar is high. Like you're going for some pretty big names to kind of bridge the gap here. But what do you think? And then I promise I want to get into your art, but like, what do you think we can do? How can like someone like, I remember when we first met, I said to you, I was like, you're like, what do you want? Like, what do you want? Remember this? You're like, we were talking and like,
say it, Kevin.
Well, you're like, I was like, I just want to be your friend. Like, you're like, what do you want? You're like, you want to be my friend? And I'm like, I don't know. I just like, I think that's a good place to start. Like, like I'm just trying to learn here because I'm
being nice.
I'm just like a classic, typical white dude in that I have a handful of black friends. And, it's not really, it's just the peer groups that I run with, it's just the nature of the tech world in general. Like when you go out and you build businesses in this world, or you work in Silicon Valley, or you do this, like, it's just like, it's sadly not as diverse as one would hope. And, I've got way more friends of other ethnicities than black people. Like there is this like, when I was at Google and there were in my particular circle, I'm not saying this is a global Google thing, but there was just, I have a ton of Indian friends that were there that were on the engineering side that I became friends with. Right. But the same wasn't true for black people. Mm. And so when we first met, I was just like, we've been trying to do more and help out more on the proof side. But like, I guess my question to you is, what can the NFT industry do? Well, you're doing some of it where you're doing this idea of highlighting black artists and having these purchase parties. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, yeah. So,
and it's pretty open-ended question. So if you want to go a different route too.
I mean, no, definitely. I am always down to answer the question. Forgive me if I ramble a little bit, just bring me back. But like how that came about was because I was in this space for, quite some time. And this was actually before, I mean, it probably was touching bear, but it wasn't bear like what it is now. The bear market. And I had this idea of like doing a bigger project. But then what happened was it's like I was like seeing a lot of artists of color struggling to make sales, struggling to get visibility. And I was like, and I was seeing these big projects sell out, make like, either 5 million, all these things. And I'm like, man, no one's trying to at all use some of that funding to buy these, like, buy some of this art from these one-of-one artists. Okay, how can I, go against that? And I was like, okay, we're going to make this big project. We're going to probably sell like, make, it was at the time 5K. We're going to do 5K. And then.
Is this your Run Ed project?
This was the Run Ed collection. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this sell out. God willing, the goal was like sell out. It's going to fund my short film, which is what I'm actually doing as well. But it's also I'm going to have secondary sales go to buying art from those in the community who are of color. And so that was my goal because I was like, and why I was doing it really was I was seeing that, and it gets to a point when you get tired of just saying, hey, this is happening, and you're complaining and you're yelling. and I don't have time to talk. Like no one has time to talk. You have to be about that action. And, I just know like, okay, what can we do? Okay, cool. I'm going to make this project. God willing, it sells out and does what it does. I get those numbers. I'm able to get that volume. I'm able to get that money, and then we can buy art. And so when this bear market happens, because everyone's talking about the bear market, when it happens, we'll have something. Of course, we can't buy everybody, but we'll have something where it's like, okay, hey, at least we have Ed's thing. He could try to, he's doing something during the, the bear market. It didn't sell. We had to bring the number down.
Let's talk about the project first, though. What exactly was it? Because we have the videos up here on the screen and we can show. So let's talk about some of the art though first. So when you set out to create this, what did you want to make?
Yeah. So with the Run Ed collection, it was.
There we go, right there.
So I wanted to do a project that still was true to me. And what I mean by that is I was seeing a lot of these PFP projects, and I was like, yeah, it's not giving, it's very like lazy in a way, or it's just like, one way. And it's very narrow-minded. And I'm like, if this is the tech that everyone's talking about, why aren't we doing new things about it? Why with it? Like, why aren't we trying to like, really push the bar? And I was like, okay, well, I'm doing this short film, and I'm also a musician, and I'm all these things. Why not make sure that I'm incorporating, my voiceovers in there? Why not make sure I'm incorporating music, sound, with stop motion animation, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting a lot of people like, people didn't really know what to expect, because they were like, we haven't seen anything like this, or I don't know. This is like, it's gonna take a lot. And I was like, nah, we have to do something. We have to do it. We have to really do this. And I really worked hard on this project. It went from like, the design, like having a whole team and really being like, okay, well, the backgrounds need to really make sense and it needs to really flow. Like that is a Black character running, right? So you want to make sure that it didn't really conflict with, with the puppet itself. And so like I really had a dope, animator and an illustrator working with me at the same time. But also the message of it. And it was really like, with the Run Ed, it was like why that came. I was working with Christina Flynn, who is a community manager for the project. And we were like talking about it, and she was like, why Run Ed and stuff. And then, usually it was like, me running from Web 2 into Web 3. But, she kind of made me tap in a little bit deeper, and it became more so of me I've kind of been running my whole life, right? Trying to find acceptance of being this different dude, right? Not really fitting into these boxes or what the world has deemed me to be, right? But still trying anyway. I'm still doing these things. And so legit, I've been running to that place where I can finally be able to like, coast and be able to live my truth with freedom and not the pressures of the world. And so that was really the underlying reason of why it was called the Run Ed collection. Of just like, this artist who's been running pretty much his whole life to get to that dream.
And you also physically run.
I do. I run.
Like I see you down the street running. My wife sees you.
Yeah.
And Daria will be like, I saw Ed running again. He's got his shirt off again. She's like, he's ripped. I'm like, stop looking at Ed. Like I know I got a beer gut and shit, and like she's you got like a 6-pack. You're making me look bad, dude.
I don't know if it's 6-pack, but it's
at least a 4-pack.
Yeah, we give it 4. It's getting somewhere. But like, yeah, I run and I didn't really even connect the two, but like of like how, like, because I was like, I did this, because usually with the stop motion, with the puppet, I usually do the videos of like me running, and then I'll send it to like, the animator, and but I didn't realize or connected to like, oh yeah, I run all the time, and I'm legit running not only like physically but also mentally sometimes. And so like to also include it into my project, it's really on brand, I guess.
Yeah.
But it also like really touches on like the deep meaning of it. It wasn't something that I was just doing for the sake of like sales and stuff, but it was also something like giving people a piece of like what I'm just trying to create, and what I'm also going through, my story with it. And so yeah. The project did, we had to bring it down in numbers because that's where the bear market hit, unfortunately. But it was a good learning experience. And then from 5K, we brought it to 1K, and it sold out from there. And
so 1,000 total pieces, and are each of those are unique pieces.
Well, I mean, what do you mean by unique?
Meaning that like no two are exactly the same, or
there's no two that are exactly the same.
So the animations change slightly, or
no, the animation is the same, but the backgrounds are different.
Okay, so that's I see. Why do I see, like, when you're looking here, look at the screen,
you have different colored clouds. Of animation.
Okay.
Yeah. You have different types of like the puppet. When I'm talking about the puppet's the same.
I see. Yeah. Okay, so
you have a running puppet, you have a puppet driving the motorcycle. You also have Super Ed flying in the air, and then you also have you have two versions of Ed running. And there's also one, I believe it's a one of like a close-up Ed. But yeah,
this one's cool. What's this one with the fireball in the background?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that was a cool one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
These are great. So this is something that
it was cool. You didn't even know I was an artist. Like you were just looking. You were like, wait.
No, I saw you. You just got. I don't know how I originally found your profile, but like I saw like you had pinned like a dance video or something that you did. Yeah. Or there was something kind of outlined, like almost like Apple-esque ad, like a shadow of you dancing or something.
Oh, okay, really?
I saw something like that, okay. and then I saw that you were doing this, and I was like, wow, these are pretty badass. And like, I'm a fan of stop motion, and it was clear that like you put a lot of work into these. Like, this is not an easy thing to pull off.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I think sometimes it is very difficult to like for people to like know if you're like not going through the process. Like, me and my animator and like just my team, my bandmate, and just like also with the coding involved too. Like, people don't even talk about like the rendering and like making sure like these will actually like, you didn't have any like hiccups with it was one thing, but also like the illustrations, making sure like, the running was like, it made sense in it, all those things. It was, it was really like a lot. And so like I put a lot of it in it. So, when that bear market hit, I was like, but it's okay. You pivot and you keep going. And so the drop happened, and we were able to like sell 1,000 pieces, and from there I was able to like buy pieces of art from those in marginalized communities in the space. And I think that's
an ongoing thing, right? 50% of any time there's a sale of one of these, 50% of the royalties go towards buying that art, right?
Yes.
How many pieces have you collected?
Wow. I think so far possibly over 10 right now. We've only been able to like do, we had it is a slow market, so we're not getting as much volume. But we've been able to like, I still am trying to buy as much as possible. I actually no, we have 20 because I legit bought 10 pieces from Time did something with New York Cares, and I was able to buy pieces from for that project. So I think I have about 20 pieces of art from the Ed Balloon Generational Wealth Fund.
That's awesome.
And so but we're still going. We're still as many sales we can get for that.
And to let people know, well, the funny thing is, since this collection has come out, you've dropped some one-of-ones, some great pieces, and even in this crazy like bear market, you recently sold one for, what was it, more than 10 ETH? 10 ETH. Yeah, of a one-on-one. And so when I look at this collection, the Run Ed collection, and I see, you can do buy it nows for basically 0.077 ETH, which is a little over $100 to collect one of these.
Yeah,
like that's awesome. Like, that's not going to stay that way forever. Like, you as an artist, like you're really like on the up and up on the one-on-one side. Like, it's crazy.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Can we show off that one? This one here. This is the one that's over 10 ETH, right?
Yeah. Don't walk the vote.
This is. Now, this is your music, right?
Yes. It was actually crazy. So I made that. So we actually had a music video drop before this one, and I dropped that one during Digital Diaspora right after my drop, and that one sold for 9 ETH to the Guppy team. Shout out to them. And that was like me dancing and stuff like that. And so when we did this one, I was really afraid. Like, so I actually did this music video for my friend, who his name Chukwudi Hodge, and shout out to Chukwudi Hodge. But he was like in a bad accident, and they were like doing this like group event, for him, for like a fundraiser thing, and I like was supposed to do like a song for him, whatever, but it was during like NFT NYC, so I didn't have the time. But then they allowed me to find time to like do something, and I was just like, I need to make a song. It doesn't seem right for me. I need to make a song, and I need to make a music video. I need to do something for this. And so when we did it, I made this music video, this song, and this song just like came to me. I think it was just more of just like, me being outside a little bit more, and just like, also like seeing the world as what it is, and just really trying to get my understanding of where I was in life. I just feel like sometimes we think we're ready for things, but we're not really ready, but we are. And so I was just like going through all those emotions. But then, from that song, I then just made that video, and me and my bandmate, we made the video. We make all our music videos, or not all of them. Like the one that Sofa 98 we didn't make, but this one we made, and we were actually really afraid. Like we sent it to Chukwudi, and he loved it, but we were afraid to like put it out, and I was afraid. I was like, I'm not too sure if they really understand my style, because the puppet is kind of like it also may come off as a little bit like out there, but it's not. I feel like it's really like curated in a way. I got to change that, but like but like with this, it's kind of like, I don't think people see me in this in this type of way before. Or at least I don't know. I was just like doubting myself, and my bandmate Dave was also like, I don't know either. But and so like we sensed it, like
have a supportive friend. It's like, I don't fucking know if it's gonna work.
What we just like really care about like the things that we put out and stuff. And so like we're like, I don't know. And then I sent it to like Christina and Pat, and they were like, we love this. Put it out. And we're like,
and that's this one here.
Yeah. And I didn't put it out, so that I was on this for like the thing was like around June. I didn't put this out until like September. And but like
tell me what's going on here. Like when we're looking at this, like what all went into this?
So I pretty much wanted to make, the song is called Don't Rock the Boat. And so I really wanted to make something that wasn't so literal. I don't like to be literal all the time, like, And so I was like, well, I'm not going to be in the water on a boat. I'm going to put water in my eyes and have that. A lot of people they're like, what is that? Is that water? And like, I was like, is that water? And I'm like, yeah, it's water. But how we had that happen was we legit had like a bucket of water, and we had like a pitcher of water, and we had actually not the bucket. The bucket was like empty, but we had a pitcher of water, and we had we poured the water like into the pitchers, like, and recorded it. And then like we had Dave was in working his magic with Photoshop, and then also like with the lips just moving, I had to stand still. So like people are like, oh, you just probably like took it probably would have been easy, I guess, if you like just took a photo of me and then had just like, my mouth moving, whatever. Like,
there's like AI software that can kind of do that. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
We did not do that. We did it a very I guess the very scrappy way. And so like I had to like stand still, like, or sit still. I was sitting.
You took your shirt off again.
I did. I'm shirtless all the time. Shout out to the shirtless crew. But I had to like sing the song without moving my face. And so like people don't even know that. Like, we were like doing a whole bunch of takes where I couldn't move it. And like but like I didn't even know like the words like that because we just recorded it. So like like I had to like do so many takes of me like singing the song straight without moving my face and stuff like that, which was like kind of hard. But we did it in a day and stuff. And then so when we dropped it, we were like, I'm not too sure if people are gonna like it. And when we dropped it and people like started liking it, and I sent it to you, you were like, oh, this is incredible. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, wow, I didn't expect that. So it definitely was something to, that has encouraged us to like, really believe in like our, our artistic approaches. So that was kind of that was that video.
And now you've dropped some others on Foundation as well, right?
Mhm.
So did you start on Foundation? Was that the very first place?
No,
Or was the Run Ed the very first collection?
no, my first collection was this small collection. I had like two, like maybe like 20, 25 stills of like the puppet, like smiling. And I had like a one of one of the puppet, like, dancing and stuff. And that was like for like 0.8. And, it was just very like small. And I was so nervous. I was like, I don't think people are gonna like this puppet. This is a Black puppet. I'm not sure if people are gonna want this in their wallet. Had all these, doubts. But it sold out, and I was like, wow, and that was my first time like really getting that experience of like, oh my goodness, this is going to be life changing, right? This space can be really life changing, and like I've just never had people support me in that way, and people like also support my art and like my art. I've just been always pushing myself into people's faces, just like, hey, would you like this? Could you, and seeing that and seeing people like really saying, hey, this is incredible, or like liking it, was something that really blew my mind. And so that was my first collection. And from there, I did the one of one of like actually before then I actually did a song, but it was just only a song. And I put it on Catalog Works. And that sold. Cause I was also afraid of people like my music. I was like, I'm not too sure people are gonna like my music. But that sold, and people were like, oh, we love it. And so that was like a one of a song. And then I did my one of the puppet dancing to that song I sold. And people were like blown away at the dances and stuff. And that also sold, and that was on Foundation. That was my first Foundation piece. I kind of like go around with these platforms and stuff like that. But the Run Ed collection was like on our platform that is now on secondary on OpenSea. So yeah, well.
It sounds like I'm sensing a little bit of like when you is it hard to put yourself out there? Like do you when you think about like doing these new drops, and you said a couple times like I don't know if people are gonna like it.
Oh, it's very scary. I don't know why. I think there is pressure. I think to be very honest, there's a lot of pressure for me because I am this Black artist. And as people are saying, oh, you're finding some success, there is this pressure of like, oh, how do I make sure that I continue on to keep the success going? When that project, the Run Ed collection, even though I think it is still amazing that it sold out at 1,000, it still didn't sell out at the original number. And I was getting a lot of people in the space saying, hey, you did everything right. How come that it didn't happen that way? And and as someone who is, a Black creator, a Black founder, who is also in the space of like community building, that does hit, because they're like, yeah, like I'm in this space day in and day out, and I'm an artist and I'm doing all these things. And for some reason, I'm not hitting these numbers. And man, like now I have people who are like looking towards me as a leader, and they're seeing that it's not working out for me, or like the way that it should be, right? That's scaring them. And so there is this pressure of like making sure that, yeah, you do hit these marks and stuff like that. Not only because, of course, you want the art to resonate, right, to that collector or to the space, but you also want people who are like you to know that there is a space for them. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, every time I am making a drop, that is in my head. And
because a lot of people look up to you, they follow you, and they're like, okay, if Ed can do it, I can do it.
I think, and it kind of sounds a little influency and whatever, but there is this, yeah. Like I remember, like, and it is painful because you're like, man, you have people who are like that. They want to believe in this space, and so there's a lot of things that are turning them off from it, right? And they are of color, and you're like, how do I keep you here? Right. And so they see me doing these moves. It's also why I have the Ed Balloon Generational Wealth Fund, right? Because if I'm getting a win, yes, we're all getting a win, right? Like this, you have to. If someone is buying a Run Ed collection, like a piece of Run Ed collection, cool. That's helping me, but it's also helping that Generational Wealth Fund. We also can find ways to help, because I see you out here. And it's not only because, yeah, I want to support you because you are an artist of color, but you are an incredible artist that does not have the visibility for some reason. And you know what, what can I do? And it's why I also try to get people that probably have bigger followings and are known to collect too in that space, just to be there. Just like, hey, I'm doing a Run Ed generational fund space today, Twitter space today. Would you mind coming in and just, showing in and supporting, right? Because hopefully they see what I'm seeing and also would want to buy into it too. But yeah, there is that pressure, and so like, and it's very difficult. But it is what it is. It was kind of a role that I guess fell on me. I was in this space like from day one. I am a musician. I'm an artist first, but I came in this space really of like, how do I find ways to like help us, underrepresented artists in this space get visibility? Like, what can we do? How do we make more noise around us? Like, how do we find ourselves on these bigger platforms, and just so we can get these eyes? But it is very difficult. And so, yeah, when I am doing these jobs and stuff like that, I'm very grateful for all the, these sales, but, it still gets harder, I guess. But it's okay. You got to keep going. And I appreciate the friends I've made, you and others, and all these people who are like still supporting me to being just in the space, and just, it shows that, if anything, my work isn't going in vain. And like, I am still finding ways to like uplift artists as much as possible, as well as myself.
You talked about doing this idea of this like party where you get together with a bunch of people and you find some undervalued art that's reasonable, that people and you can go out and support a Black artist. Like, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So like, and it's still something I'm working on. But like, my goal really is to just find ways, because I don't know, I still feel like we're missing the mark. And I think there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of noise going on. And so, a lot of times when I'm saying these things, it probably gets lost, it just gets lost. So I'm always just like, how do I find a way to like really put in people's faces? And I'm like, well, one thing, people love to like, do events. People love to, do events. Well, what's the purpose of it? Like, can we have an event that has intention? And I'm always just like, well, I'm a musician, right? And so like, one thing when it comes to like the music NFTs, right? Like right off the bat, we are losing it just seems like there's still this difficulty in making these connections. And so like, when I see Black artists, like not only with the visual artists, but like also these Black or artists of color who are musicians not getting that visibility, not only because, it's hard for them just because of, sad to say, like, because of who they are, like, but also because of like NFTs as music, it's also really like music NFTs aren't really getting,
they haven't gotten any traction.
Like, they're not getting the traction that they deserve. So it's like, okay, how do we find ways to make this, to change this? And so I've been thinking of like, doing events that brings more eyes to, these musicians, as well as their art, as well as, building like this new movement. I see the space as a movement, and I want a lot of us to start approaching it as that. And I feel like we're not, or we're missing it, and I don't want us to. So that's my goal, like swaying it back to like, hey, this is a movement. We got to be on this, y'all.
Yeah. So what do people, well, I guess a couple questions. What's next for you? That's the big one. What's the big drop, big alpha? Like what do you got coming up? That are you sticking with more one-on-ones? You going to go do another big drop? Like what's the next 6 months?
Yeah, so like? I do have a one-on-one coming out very soon, on I believe Super Rare. So that, look out for that.
Got to stay under that 50 meg limit though.
I know. Yeah, so
we're laughing because we talked about this offline. Where your files are like 300
now
megs.
It's online.
Yeah, now it's online. Well, your files. He's like, my file's like 300 megs. How do I get this to Super? I'm like, I don't know, man. That's their limit.
I mean, hey, so that's something too. I didn't say it, y'all, but something to work on if you're trying to be inclusive of music NFTs. But yeah, so if I can figure that out, that would be on Super Rare. I think we probably got it though.
You're going to compress it down to some like little 120 pixel thing.
Don't disrespect. We're going to figure it out. Okay. I think it's possible. And I'm not going to, I'm going to figure it out. If anyone's listening, you definitely reach out and maybe give me some, some pointers. But yeah, there's a super weird drop. There is also my short film that I've been working on very, in the back channels and stuff, and really have been putting all of my, power and strength into it. And it should be coming out very soon.
Is that going to be like film festival style?
Definitely tapping into film festivals and seeing how that looks and stuff like that.
Awesome.
So I'm excited about that and that process as well. So yeah, those two things and maybe some things in the middle, but those are the things I'm looking forward to currently.
Well, I mean, I can speak from the Proof side that, obviously we'd love to have you. We've already had you at our at least one of our events, a couple of our events now. So
yeah,
love to have you do more with that, especially at Proof of Conference here in LA. We got to figure out something cool for you to do.
I know. That's coming up. I just heard about that. I was like, oh.
Yeah, we got to get you to save those dates and we can do something fun.
Yeah. I think it's really cool that I love what you guys are doing, honestly. I'm not just like, saying things, but I feel like there is this a lot of this, the actual community, it feels like a really cool movement. Hey.
It's been fun. It's early days though. I can't believe it's less than a year we've started this shit. So we got a lot to learn.
I know, you're already on tour. Like, that's crazy. You already did it first tour.
That's right. So outside of your own drops, you do a lot of Twitter Spaces and whatnot. Give people times and places that they can tune in to what you're doing. And you're at ed_balloon on Twitter.
Correct.
And then you do the BIPOC space. And then are you just do other ones ad hoc, or do you have any other regular cadence ones that you do?
Yeah, so I usually do the I won't have one this week because but we actually might do it. It's between Wednesdays and Thursdays. We've been trying to like really find a date, but usually Wednesdays have been working for the BIPOC Ed and the Homies. So that's usually Wednesdays or Thursdays.
And everyone's welcome to that.
Everyone is welcome to the BIPOC Ed and the I really would love if everyone came.
I told Ed,
say.
I'll tell the story because it's real. It's real.
It is real. I want everyone to hear this. Go on, Kevin.
No, I mean, it's a little bit of shooting myself in the foot here, but I'm okay with taking that because like I honestly, when I saw BIPOC, like I thought in some sense, like this isn't for me. Like I'm not like invited into this group because I'm not a person of color. Mm-hmm. And so my first feedback to you was like, I don't know, maybe other white people might feel that way because like, I just like, I didn't want to, it wasn't that I wasn't curious. It's just like, I didn't want to go in and be disrespectful to anyone else's space. So if it was like about people of color coming together to discuss issues that I wasn't a part of, and if there was a safe space that I didn't want, so immediately I was like, oh, I shouldn't go. And then you invited me in. I'm like, wait, I'm invited in. Cool. Like I'm down. But then you were saying like, no. This is like for everyone to come and learn.
It's crazy how that.
I know that's ignorant of me, by the way.
I mean, it's
but necessary. It's just I'm just telling you the truth.
It's why. I mean, this is why we are friends, right? Because you can be honest with me, and I can also be honest with you. I've also come to you and said a whole bunch of things that we're not going to say here, but like but yeah, you also aren't the first person to say that to me. You actually just are the only first person to still be willing to like come on, even though you had that thought. There have been people who are like, oh yeah, it's not really for me. I want to give space to, those who don't ever have, spaces or space to talk and say what they want, or say how they feel. And I'm always just like, yes, but you giving us space can only happen if you're in that space, right? Like you just giving us this room this Twitter space that you don't ever want to go to, because you're like, oh yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with me. That's a big problem. A lot of times people just like, yeah, I want to give people this place to talk and so I want to make sure that I'm not, I don't want to, be intruding, but I'm also just like, we want to make sure that you're listening. We want to make sure that you see our issues and our problems. That's the only way this is going to work.
Mm.
You know, we're not even able to get at this time. Like I remember like last year, we weren't even able to get on these stages with y'all in these spaces. So yeah, we want to be able to talk about these problems. But we're talking about these problems in this space because this space is here. It's a safe space because unfortunately, a lot of these spaces don't see this as a problem, don't know the problems that are happening in this community because they aren't privy to it. They don't have that information. And so the goal for you is to come to this space, to listen, to see what's going on, to get that information so you can be a better person in this space.
Yeah.
So you can help others in this space,
For
right?
sure.
And not stick on the, oh, I'm just ignorant or I don't know, because that happens a lot. Like, oh, I didn't know. Well, we're trying to help you. We're trying to help you see what the issues are.
Yeah.
Like like a lot of times people are just like, oh, can you teach me? And a lot of times, you know, people of color, like, oh, we're exhausted. And so I'm always just like, man, you're looking for people to teach you, but you're not even looking to go to things that are actually going to give you information and knowledge of like how you can be better, a better ally or a better person. And so sometimes too, I'm just like, well, I need people to like not always see this as like, hey, this is not for me, but to also see it as, oh, this is probably something I can use as a learning, as something I can use to learn, to be a better ally. And so you coming in that space legit was really amazing. And I don't think I've said it to you, and I'm going to gas you up a little bit so you can take this. But, you know, it was really amazing because there were a lot of people that reached out to me. They were like, wow, thank you so much for having Kevin come on. Because there are things that you're doing. And you have a lot of information. You know, you know a lot. But there's a lot of things like we don't, or like, you know, a lot of like how we move in this space. I just feel like there's a barrier sometimes, and so or a wall. And so we're trying to just get the information and like also build relationships with people, right? And you know, and not just be divided. And so you coming in that space also, you know, in a way, helped with, you know, creating like people just like you were just really also willing to answer questions and, you know, be more accessible. And I think that's kind of what we always want is just people to be accessible and be willing to like, you know, partake in conversations, even if they're tough.
Yeah.
And so you also like encourage other people to come on this space too and stuff like that. And so I commend you for that.
I appreciate that, man.
So yeah, now I'm off. So
well, yeah, I've got a lot to learn. It's early days.
You still got to learn something.
Oh, a ton.
Yeah.
This is
like how to two-step.
Yeah, I don't know the first thing. We were talking about that. There's not a bone in my body that knows how to do any type of step. I can barely walk down the street, let alone do anything else. So you said there was going to be some lessons or some shit coming up.
You can do a nice 1-2 step. It's cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking. Yeah, if you're definitely down, I definitely want to record me dancing. And you dancing.
Listen, there was one thing. The only time this is going to sound so like obviously this is what happened. One time I found myself at a bar. Where was I? I was in like, where's Dolly Land? Dolly Parton Land. Do you know where Dolly Land is?
What?
You know Dolly Parton Land? Like,
no.
People are going to kill me. Let me see. Hold on. It's country music home. Dollywood. It's called Dollywood.
Is it owned by Dolly Parton?
Yeah, it's owned by Dolly Parton. Yeah. What is it? It's in Tennessee. Yeah. So anyway, I was out in this area and I was at a bar and they were teaching line dancing. I could do that shit. That was easy. That's the only thing. My wife can really dance. I can't dance. I can't. I don't know how to do any of this stuff.
Line dancing seems kind of hard.
No, there's nothing to it, man. I can teach you.
If you can do a line dance or those line dances, you could definitely do some two-stepping. The issue is dancing on beat. And, you know, I just want to make sure you can dance on beat.
I've never said this publicly. I swear to God, I've never said this publicly. When I was a sophomore in high school, they used to give you these electives that you could take in school. You know, you get to pick like whatever class, get art, do whatever you want, right? And they had like this PE elective where you could choose like whether you wanted to do basketball or volleyball, or they had like all these different things, right? They had step aerobics was one of them. And it was the brilliant idea of me and like 2 or 3 guy friends to be like, we're doing step aerobics. because it was like 99% girls in that class. And we were like, this is genius. This is genius. Anyway, that was that. I got, actually, that was the first time where I was like, someone like taught me how to move to a beat. But granted, it was an exercise little thing. You know what step aerobics are, right? Where you step on a little pad and down. It's stupid shit. Anyway,
that's all y'all did.
It used to be there's a little pad, there's music, and you step up and down. It's like one step up, one step down. But sometimes you like do this little cross dance over the top. Anyway, that was the best I ever got. I am in desperate need of some coaching. And if you will help me.
That was like sometime in the 90s.
Yeah, I'm old.
And you refuse to ever dance again.
I just have avoided it outside of like getting married. So, I just feel uncomfortable. I just feel really uncomfortable. It's a comfort thing. There's just like, I just feel like a dork when I'm doing it. So
that's okay. That's why we're friends, right? I'm going to help you.
I appreciate that. I'm going to need a couple glasses of champers or some wine or something to make it happen. But
hopefully it comes to a point where you can just drink water and still know the beat.
I mean, that would be amazing. All right. So we'll do some trades here. We'll trade some. I don't know what I can offer you, but whatever I can, we'll figure it out. We'll do some trades. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Ed, this has been awesome, man. It's great to have you on the show. I'm glad we're neighbors now. We get to hang on hopefully every few weeks, depending on how crazy life is for the two of us. But please do come back on when you got something else to announce, and I'll make sure to tweet out when you get your super rare up, man. Because a super rare, I told you this, a Genesis piece on super rare is a big deal.
I know.
It's a big deal.
Kevin was like, oh. Yeah.
Well, I was stoked when you got approved and you were like, because there's a whole application process for it. And I know you got feelings on that too. But you're in now, and we're going to get that Genesis piece out. And I'm curious to see where that goes.
I know, me too. But no, thank you so much. And yeah, I appreciate you. If y'all don't know, Kevin, I usually, ask you some things because you've become someone I'm trusting in this space, and which is very difficult to find, but a really dope ally and friend, and so like I ask you things because I'm like, man, I don't know if I should do this, and you're like, but you also you're very truthful, you're very honest, and that's kind of what I need. I'm not a big fan of yes man or yes woman or yes people.
I'm the same way, actually. Yeah, because a lot of people, it's crazy. I don't know if you saw this, but they had this they captured, the government took in a bunch of Elon Musk's texts that he was doing around this Twitter acquisition. Like they captured his text because they were trying to do some research into what had been said and all this stuff. And you had a bunch of quote unquote friends of his that were texting, and it was like, dude, it was crazy. Everyone was just obviously kissing his ass and just being like, yes, of course, Elon, we got your back, this, that. And I was like, how are you going to get that real talk from somebody? You'll never get it, at that stage, because everyone's like, oh, the richest man in the world, got to always be nice to this guy.
Which is scary.
It's super scary. And like the most valuable thing you're going to have from a friend is someone that can call you on your shit, like myself included. Like tell me if I'm fucking up, tell me, like that's.
Oh, I'm definitely. Well, that's why I think homies, right? Because I told you right off the
I know. I also told you need to upgrade the iPhone, man. I'm going to help you out with that.
Oh, no, he didn't. Just throw me under the bus with the iPhone.
No, we've been talking about that for a while, though. We were talking about that.
Yo, that's what you can take care of. Buy me an iPhone.
Listen, I appreciate your love for the environment. You're keeping the old one. You're not, but well, that's for another episode. Anyway.
Oh, man. I honestly give it to you, too. I always wonder, like I'm really good at making sure, you can always tell when someone's just saying yes, just so they can just be in your circle and stuff.
Yeah.
But I always wonder, how do you say no? You're not, like when you have people that are just saying yes, so they can be around you.
Dude, you can tell there's been, it was more on the dig days when I was younger and the whole dig thing exploded, and that became a pretty big website, and there was it was top 5 or whatever website at that time. This is small numbers, but it was a lot back then. And then all of a sudden, dude, it was the craziest thing where all these people came out of the woodwork, people I hadn't talked to in 10 years.
Oh.
And they're just like, oh, it's just good to see you, man. We need to catch up, this and that. And it was just I was like, this is not they're just doing it because, I'm hot right now for this moment. When it dies off, of course, they'll disappear, right? Which of course it did.
But how do you also move because you also have people that might have like a bigger platform than you. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, but like, and you might need to make that, it wouldn't make sense to make that connection or like to network or whatever. But like, but now they like are noticing you. Like, I don't know, do you still like engage in that? Or you just like, no, I already know what I'm doing and I'm going to keep,
In terms of like leveraging them for
Correct.
doing stuff. Yeah. I would say the thing that matters most to me at this stage of my life is the work stuff is awesome. And it's always like, I think of it as like, icing on the cake. I'd much rather have like real durable friendships that are like meaningful as I get older, because I don't know, for me, it's, that's what makes you happy. And if it just happens that there's some intertangled like work stuff that comes out of that as well, that's great. But that's not always like my ask. I want to, if I work with people, I want them to be, well, I guess there's two sides. There's the partnership side and the corporate side. And the corporate side, I want them to be obviously amazing and just top tier like individuals and contributors. On the partnership side, I don't want to partner with anybody that it's just like, I'm just doing it for the leverage. I'd much rather do it because it's going to be a fun adventure together. You know what I mean? And so I think that's kind of how I approach that side. It's like, let's make sure it's a win for both of us and let's become friends first. Like, I think that's always like the best, is like just to like get to know people on that level.
I mean, I think, no, absolutely. It's what you said to me. Like, let's be friends. And I was like, what? But like, not everyone approaches that like in that way. So it's, it was still, and to this day, I'm like, man, like what? Like, who says that? But yeah. I mean, I just hope that there's more people who, are willing to like, approach, endeavors like that versus like, oh yeah, like leveraging and stuff like that. I mean, it'll make the world a better place, but that's a perfect world.
One day at a time, dude. You're crushing it one day at a time.
Likewise, homie. Likewise.
All right. So at @Ed_Balloon on Twitter.
Yep.
Instagram. I don't even know if you use Instagram. You still use that?
It's @Balloon on Instagram, but yeah, I dabble. I go in.
Are you in VR too? Are you getting there?
No,
I don't know.
I'm not. Are you in VR?
I do it for a workout thing that they got, but other than that, I think it's stupid. I'm not a fan. Anyway, we can talk about this offline. Okay. All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been Ed. This is awesome, and we'll do it again soon. All right, that is it for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you would like to help us out, head on over to proof.xyz and click on the reviews button at the very top and leave us a 5-star review. Thanks so much. Take care.